Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on my channel. I'm going to be doing a foundation review today. Now this is not a new foundation to the market, but it is new to me. It is the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation plus concealer. Oh, I had to purchase this online. I couldn't find it in a store. I had heard that the shades were kind of dark, and I'm very light skinned, I'm very pale, so I knew that the shades that they had were not going to work for me. But then I saw that they came out with a lighter shade, and this is the shade 00 Light Natural. One of the other things that I had heard about this foundation was that it oxidized down once it dries. That's also why I didn't get the other shades that they had, because I knew if they were already dark to begin with and then they oxidized down that it was just going to be way too dark for me. So I got this in the mail yesterday, and I immediately did a swatch on the back of my hand just to kind of see if it did oxidize. So putting it on the back of my hand, this color it's a perfect match, but it did oxidize down a little bit, so I'm going to have to kind of be proactive with using a really light concealer to kind of counteract that. My hands are lighter than my face anyway, so whenever I swatch foundations on the back of my hand, it's not always a true test to how the color is going to work for me. So let's talk about the packaging. It comes in a glass bottle, which I really love. It just, for a drugstore product, feels very luxurious. So the packaging is very pretty. It's gold and black. It does have a pump, which I love so much. So that's very sanitary, and you know exactly how much product you're using. It says that it's the Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation and concealer. So we'll see about that. I think I'm gonna have to use concealer. Pretty sure. And this is 1 fluid ounce, and it says on the back that it's medium to full coverage, that it's lightweight with an oil-free formula, that it's long wearing, and that it's water resistant and sweat proof. Well, I'm not planning on sweating today or working out or anything. But I'm curious to see if it's long wearing, and I'm curious to see if it works for my combination skin. It says apply a dime-sized amount of product with fingertips or a brush, beginning at the center of the face, blending outward. I'm going to use a sponge because I always use a sponge, and so I want to do my foundation routine the exact way that I always do. It says as concealer, use a small amount of product and apply where additional coverage is needed in a tapping motion until blended. So they're saying basically that you layer this on to get full coverage and that you don't need concealer, but I kind of like using a lighter concealer in the center of my face for kind of that highlighted effect, so I'm probably going to use concealer. But enough talking, let's jump right in. I'm going to be using the Baby Skin Instant Pore Eraser Primer. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this all over my face. Okay, so I'm going to shake up the bottle because I just always do that before I put my foundation on. It doesn't say to shake well or anything like that, but I think it's just good practice. And then I'm going to start with like 1 pump first and see. It is very thick. It's not like running down my hand at all. It's staying put. And I tend to kind of like those formulas. It does remind me of the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte. So I'm just gonna kind of do like I normally do. I usually just like streak it on. I can tell right off the bat that this is not a great color for me. It's a little orange for me. I don't know. Let's see. I'm very curious to see whether or not it's going to oxidize down. Once I blend it out though, it doesn't look too dark. I'm finding that with the thickness of it, it's not as easy to blend as some of my other foundations. As far as the coverage, I definitely think I'm going to have to go in with 1 more pump. This is not looking full coverage enough for me. I like full coverage. So I'm going to go in with another pump. Okay, so I didn't use all of that foundation. I just used like probably not even half of it. But I'm just going to kind of go in and build up that coverage in the areas that I think I need it, which for me is like everywhere, basically. I also have some lovely breakouts happening right now. Alright. The second layer is blending a little better than the first layer. which is nice. I don't know, I still wouldn't call this like full coverage. It's looking very medium coverage. I'm worried about it like caking up though if I keep adding more product, but so far it's not really looking that way. Just in case it does oxidize, I'm gonna make sure I blend it down kind of far so that I don't end up with like a mask on my face and like a pale neck. That's not cute. I'm guilty of that, okay you guys? I've done that. One of the things I noticed is that the bottle didn't say like what kind of a finish it was, if it was like matte or anything. I would say it's not matte. It definitely has like I wouldn't say a dewy finish, it just looks very fresh. It's like a skin finish, I would call it. But I think there's no way that I could go without concealer. I just need more coverage than that, so I'm gonna go in with my Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. Okay, so I'm just gonna like go in here with some concealer. And two, since I'm using a lighter concealer, this should help counteract any oxidizing that happens. So I'm gonna go like along my jawline a little bit here too, just in case. Just gonna cover my bases in case it oxidizes. I don't want to look crazy. I've got plans today. I've got places to go and people to see. So I don't want to have a crazy face. Okay, I'm feeling much happier with the coverage now that I've got some concealer action going on here. Okay, the concealer blended over top of the foundation really nicely. Alright, I'm just gonna kind of get a good look at my face here. Definitely a very fresh, skin-like finish. I'm much happier with the coverage now that I put some concealer on. Blends really nicely. I think the color is going to be okay since I added this really light concealer in. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of my makeup off camera, like my powder and bronzing and blush and highlight and all that. And I'm going to come back and see how it does with all of those products, and then I will be right back. Okay, so I've put the rest of my makeup on. My eyes started watering like crazy. This did say that it was water resistant, so nothing smudged or smeared in that area that my eyes started watering. I'm so glad I decided to put waterproof mascara too on my lower lash line. Otherwise, I probably would have had mascara running down my face. But putting on my bronzer, blush, highlighter, sometimes with certain foundations, when you go in with your powder products, it can cause your foundation to go patchy. This did not do that. It didn't cause anything to go patchy. So I'm hopeful that it's gonna keep my bronzer and blush and highlight looking like I just put it on all day long. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna check back. It's 12:16 right now. I don't know if you can see that. I'm gonna come back in a few hours and just check in with you guys and see how the foundation is wearing and how it's lasting and what it's looking like. And I will give you guys my thoughts. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so I'm checking back in with you guys. It is 4:40 p.m. So last time I checked in with you guys, it was like around 11:30 or something like that. So I've had this foundation on for quite a few hours now. I went out and had lunch with a friend and ran some errands, so I kind of brought you in a little bit closer. This foundation is still looking really good. Like, I'm not looking oily. Maybe just a tiny bit right in the center of my forehead. I feel like the lights don't show as much as my oil coming through, as much as actually has come through, but it's really not a lot. A little bit around my nose. There has been a little bit of the foundation settling in my smile lines, just a tad, but that's not too unusual. It's also not breaking up around my nose at all, so that's a huge plus. It really bothers me when foundations start to break up around my nose. That happens to me a lot just because I produce a lot of oil in that area, and it's not breaking down around my chin either, so that's definitely a plus. I do think that it's kept my bronzer and highlighter on. My blush has kind of faded, but again, that's not too uncommon. but it hasn't caused my bronzer or my highlighter to fade at all. So far I really like this foundation. I'm liking it. It looks really good still. I haven't touched it up at all. I did go out to lunch, so some of my lipstick has started to go a little bit, but overall I'm thinking this foundation looks really good. I'm really impressed with how well it has stayed on, and I've kind of like touched my face and I've held my baby and my toddler, you know, and nothing has gone patchy. So I'm gonna check back in with you guys later. We have dinner plans with some friends, so it's probably gonna be a late night. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have this foundation on for at least 10 hours. So, and I think that's a really good amount of time to test the wear of a foundation. So I will come back and see you guys in a few hours, and we'll let you know how it's looking at that point. So yeah, see you later. Okay, so it is now 9:45 p.m. So I've had this foundation on since 11:30 this morning. So it's been on for a good 10 hours. I'm really impressed with this foundation. I am starting to look a little oily. Again, I don't know how well it's gonna pick up in these lights. These lights are so much more forgiving than real life. But I do have a fair amount of oil right here between my brows, but it didn't really cause like the makeup to separate, which is huge because if my oil is gonna come through, I at least want my foundation to stay put and not to start to separate and budge. It's still hanging out on my chin. It hasn't separated there. So I do think I look a little oily. It's not like a deal breaker for me, especially since my foundation has not separated. So I did touch up around like 5:30. I did take one oil blotting sheet and just kind of blot my areas that I get oily and put just a little bit of powder on. So I think that's part of why it still looks so good 10 hours later. You know, I only had to touch it up one time throughout the day, which is pretty normal. I don't have a problem touching up my makeup one time throughout the day. I would say that this is like pretty good. Like, I'm pretty impressed right now. It did oxidize a little bit. I know that was something I talked about this morning that I was a little bit worried about. It looks a little better in this lighting, but I noticed when I was at my friend's house and I went in and used the bathroom that I did think it looked a little bit darker. I don't think it's significant, like to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, my face oxidized, I look like an Oompa Loompa. I don't think it was anything like that. But it did, like once it fully dried down a little bit darker, especially like when you can see my chest, you can see a little bit of a difference, but again, nothing significant. My skin is still looking pretty good at this point in the day. Like, my bronzer is still on after 10 hours. Like, my blush is pretty much gone, but blush is usually the first thing to fade, like no matter what foundation I wear. Man, that bronzer is still going strong. Like, this foundation is going strong. So it says that it's a long wearing foundation. Also, it said that it was water resistant. Well, like my eye kept watering throughout the day, and like this did not budge. It did not go anywhere. Like, this makeup, it really is. It doesn't say it's waterproof, it says it's water resistant, but I would almost call it waterproof because I was like having some serious watery eyes today because I've got this cold going on. But like, man, it did not streak or smear or cause anything to move at all. I'm just like really impressed. I think that this foundation is like really worth it. I think when I ordered it online, I forgot to mention the price, but I think it ended up being around like $13. Maybe, I think altogether it might have been like $15. By the time I paid tax and shipping, I think it was like a total of like $15. But I think the actual foundation was like maybe $12.99. I do wish that maybe they would do even a shade lighter than this, because I'm pale, but I know people who are like even more pale than me, and this would not be an option for them. And I think it's just a really beautiful foundation. Like, It just has a beautiful skin finish, and it doesn't look like, I mean, I have a little bit of oil coming through, but after 10 hours, like, that's pretty good. I would say this foundation would be ideal for like 7 to 8 hours. So yeah, I would have to say that this is a good foundation. I don't know how this would perform on dry skin, but like I said, it's not like a matte foundation, so, and because it has such a beautiful like skin-like finish to it, I think this would probably be just as beautiful on normal to dry skin as it is on my like combination oily skin. So I would say this is definitely worth picking up and trying out. Just remember to, I sneeze. Okay. I would say this is definitely worth picking up. Just go a shade lighter than you normally would if you're worried about it oxidizing. So yes, I think this is a great foundation, especially for being a drugstore brand, especially for being less than $15. And it's got beautiful packaging with this lovely pump. Oh, I'm so excited that I got my hands on this finally. I'm definitely going to be wearing this foundation again. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I will have this foundation linked down below in the description box to where you can purchase it. And I'd love to hear your feedback and whether or not you want me to do more product reviews like this, or if you'd like to see more tutorials, just let me know. I'm always happy to hear your feedback. Again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.